Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Inspiring Educators with your host, Teacher Brian from the Philippines. And now, for our latest episode, I'm very honored to have a fantastic educator from Mauritius. Okay, we've been doing lots of webinar series, and she is, an ambassador of the International English Language Teachers Association for Mauritius. So, without further ado, I'm so excited. Let's all welcome Teacher Brinda Runghsawme from Mauritius. Teacher, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, Teacher Brian, and I'm happy and I'm honored to be here.
Wow, the honor and the pleasure is mine, Teacher Brinda. At last, I got to interview another educator from another part of the globe, and I'm going to, get some wonderful information from an educator who is really dedicated with the passion that she's currently doing. So before we get started, Teacher Brinda, me and my listeners are excited to know something about you, okay? Can you tell us who is Teacher Brinda?
Okay, thank you for this question. So I was born in Mauritius. And Mauritius, if you look on a world map, sometimes you won't find it because it's such a tiny dot. So you have to go and travel to Africa, and from over Africa, you have to see, when you see the Madagascar, that big island, and next to it, you need to find a little dot in the Indian Ocean. There you will find Mauritius. So this is where we are, a tiny dot. And so this is where I was born. And in Mauritius, we speak English and French, and our mother tongue is Creole. It comes from French, broken French.
Mm-hmm.
So to say good afternoon or good morning, I'll say bonjour in Creole. Bonjour, Teacher Brian. So this is it. So, and my dad was a police officer and my mom was a housewife, and I have one brother and one sister, and I am in the middle. I've always been quite lonely. I love my company. It's not that I'm selfish, but I love to be by myself, and I have a big imagination. I love to think. I love to imagine lots of things, and the woman whom has impressed me all my life has been my mother. She's multi-talented, and she's the one who has encouraged us to read books. She has guided us in choosing the schools for us. She has been our teacher, our first teacher. So I say thank you to my mom. She is no longer here. She has passed away. Thank you to my parents, both my parents, for this. I had wonderful parents, so I say thank you. And I miss them, but whatever they have given us, children, so I thank them for that. And what I wanted to say is that the thing that I love very much, who has been my friend, nature. I grew up when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a coastal historical village called Mayburg, and it's so beautiful. At night you see the stars as if you can touch them. In the morning when you wake up, you see the sunrise, and you have a beautiful sea breeze. It's such a place to live. You hear birds, you see mountains. It's really beautiful. It's really, and you have the beach. You can collect the shells. So it's where I used to live. It was beautiful. I think this is what inspired me, and that's why for me, nature has been another lifelong friend and teacher. I've learned so much from nature. And then now I'll go when I was in college, when I first was introduced to poetry and the romantics in English literature. I just fell in love with them because this is where I first when I read the poetry of Wordsworth, of Keats, of Coleridge, I said, but whatever they have written down, this is how I felt. As if I saw myself, them reading their work, as if they are putting down my thoughts. So I felt, so overjoyed. I said, I was so happy. And this is also why, for the last, let's say, 25, 30 years, I've been writing poetry, short stories, and I love writing. And that's me. My first job, I'll say, do I stop or I continue?
Actually, I was just about to say, Teacher Brinda, that you have a very wonderful introduction. I'm so impressed on how you let the listeners visualize Mauritius, okay? Though it's a little or a tiny country, okay? But then when you mention that it is within Madagascar, and then I imagine, the wonderful nature. And then when you mention the place where you're living, when at night, when you look at the sky as if you can really touch the stars, and then the morning, you will see how beautiful the sunrise starts. Oh my goodness. I'm already imagining this is a perfect place for an educator, to become who they really are. And then when you mention that you are in the circle of literature, poetry making, I'm starting to get more interest, okay? The listeners are really starting to fall in love with your profession, okay? Now, for the next question, Teacher Brinda, okay? We wanted to know your journey as an educator. So, how did it all started? Would you mind sharing us your story, please?
Oh, I would love. I was like, when I finished school, my secondary education, so I was at home, and then I had my neighbor. He was in primary school, and he was struggling with his studies, but I loved to help him with his lesson, and I had such a joy when he understood. So for me, I didn't know then at that time but I loved to do that. My mother also was like that. At one time she was a teacher, and so this is how I think. I think that was the beginning of it. And then over the years, this is what I love to do. When I had a friend, a colleague who had problems, maybe her child had problem at school, so I'll go and help that child. And I was happy when they succeeded. So for me, that was it. As if the students who had difficulties, I really loved to help them. I felt so happy. I felt it was my world, and I really enjoyed it. But the first thing that I became educator, if you want, I did my training as a pre-primary teacher, and did my first year, I started like a trainee teacher for the first year of primary, and then I got a job in the newspaper as a proof. I also love words, I love writing, so that was also beautiful. I really, and do you know how I got that job? Because I was writing for some years, I was like collaborating with the newspaper, my poetry. So they loved my poetry, and also they said, so this is how I really through my poetry, I got that job. So, and then I was I really enjoyed my proofreading, the job I had. And we because Mauritius is bilingual, so it was, you had to do English and French. So we had to read articles and also advertisements. And then you also, in newspapers, you have beautiful stories. You have beautiful documentaries, anything, beautiful reports also. So it was for me, it's not only about your job, but I learned so much from the articles I read. I learned so much. Even my proofreading skills got better with those who were before me. They trained me. So you always learn. So that was it. And then after that journey, I started doing. I stopped. There was a turning point in my life. And from something bad came something good, is that I started going to school. I did theology. For 2.5 years, I did theology. And I love that because I learned so much about the Bible. I learned so much about God. And I also, it made me a better person. So I think that really also helped me a lot. And then afterwards, that was also something I love to do, reading, learning. I love things like that. And then after that, I got a job afterwards in another newspaper. I worked. That was another job as proofreader. And also I was, I forgot to tell you, when my first job in the newspaper, I also collaborated. So on social issues, some writing, I did some articles like that in English and French. And then afterwards, then this is how my journey online. I started working with computers. I did outsourcing work as a proofreader, digital proofreading. So that really, so I started learning another way of doing proofreading. So that was also something very good for me. I learned about that. And afterwards, then at the same time, there was a job at the British Council to assist teachers in primary level. So I was an assistant to the teacher, so I learned a lot through that, teaching students. And I did courses at the British Council because, when I was at school, I never learned about phonics. We never learned that. So when I was school, it was more traditional. We just learned how to read with the alphabet, the letters, but not the sound. So I learned the sounds, the phonics, and this is the first time I learned phonics. And from then I got a job through a friend. I got a job as they were looking for a new school. They were looking for an assistant teacher. So then I got that job. And then because the work I was doing as a digital proofreader, it was becoming very hard because there were times you had to stay late at night. So it was becoming very difficult for me. So then I was saying, when I got that job, I said, okay, so I got that job in 2010. And from 2010 until now, I'm still working in that school. It's an English medium school. And I've learned so much in that school from let's say, from an assistant teacher where I help the teacher. I learned a lot through that. And I learned to work in small groups. And I also became a French teacher. I taught French, main French, and French as a foreign language. And then with years, with time, I love telling stories. The children also love it. I love to tell them stories. And that was the other thing. With time, you don't know, you discover things. But this school has really helped me to develop, especially my English, because English is our third language, if you can say. And so it really, because you had to speak English all the time, because this is an English school. So because in Mauritius, we are more comfortable in Creole, our native language, or French. So this is it. And then, so this is how I built myself. I made mistakes while I taught because you don't know because like for me, I learned in my days when I was at school, our parents told us to always respect the teacher, and we just, whatever the teacher tells us to do, we do. But this is the first time when I was with students, the students they talk back to the teacher. They said, no, they don't want to work, they don't want to do it. And they question you, they say, why should I do that? So, and for me, that was unacceptable. I said, I can't accept children that are rude. But then over time, I learned that there are different children. They come from different backgrounds. So not because I was taught like that. So I learned, and I'm very happy in my own personality. I learned to develop my own personality and to look at things, not because I not to always put me. That was the way I was taught. But this is different. They are another generation, so you need to adapt. So I learned to adapt. And that was okay. This is what I'm doing. I'm very happy what I'm doing. Since this year, I am an ESL teacher. I work in the primary school, grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. I have my own student. I'm very happy about that. But since the last 7 years, I have been giving private tuition to secondary level students in English and French.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What a wonderful journey in becoming an educator. Your passion in writing, which brought you to the, being a writer, a proofreader in a newspaper, and then you evolve into a digital proofreader, and then suddenly someone invited you to become a teacher. And what caught my attention, Teacher Brinda, is that when you mentioned that, you face lots of challenges, you mentioned that you face something that challenged you as an educator, but then it didn't stop you, right? You mentioned that it didn't stop you, and it made you much more better right now in your position. That's something that our listeners are always looking for. To all the educators that I've interviewed, they are really looking for educators who learn from their journey, their challenges, and definitely I can say that you have that kind of qualification. Off to our third question, Teacher Brinda, okay? We wanted to hear from you, okay? We wanted to hear your experiences in coping up in the pandemic situation. And we wanted to hear your experience as Brinda, okay? As an ordinary citizen of Mauritius, and Teacher Brinda. So we wanted to hear how Brinda from Mauritius cope up, and how Teacher Brinda as a teacher cope up with the pandemic situation in your country. So can you share us a story on that one?
Yes. We had our first lockdown in March 2020. That was the first one, and that was a shock for everybody. I think it would be the same for the whole world. Is that this is the first time in my life I've heard about that. That was really a shock. And then we heard from our school that we had to work online, and I've never in my life heard about Zoom. So we had to learn what's Zoom. We had to go and learn. And what I'm happy is that, Teacher Brian, when I am with others, when I am with other teachers, when we are around noise, I find it difficult to learn. But when I'm alone at home, I have my own space, I am confident, and I work. I am very successful. I can work through my trial and mistake. I learn. So this is how I learned. For me, the pandemic was a blessing because I was alone with my laptop and I learned. And so this was something that helped me. And I had to manage my own fears alone, and it helped me. So that's something that was very good in that sense. And working online with the students, then I learned to be less shy on a screen. I learned to be less shy because I was working, I'll tell you, in 2020, I was working with grade 1 students and were only 5.5 years old. So imagine doing a PowerPoint. So you have to dance, you have to become silly, you have to become a clown. So I learned to do that, and I'm very happy. I felt I was in my own element, and I did it. So I put on the cap of a clown sometimes, and sometimes I use realia, like a spoon. If I have to say, this is how I eat, and I will say fourchette. I show them. I'm not going to translate. I say fourchette. So I show them it is a spoon. Sorry if I'm talking about a spoon. I say cuillère. I'm not going to translate for them because they were English speakers, but they had to learn French. So I show them a spoon and I say cuillère. So then they had to learn it, and I say manger. So I do the action, and they also, I say, now it's your turn, you do it. So we just, you had to improvise, and this is how I did it. through trial and error. And then afterwards, when the pandemic was over, we went to school face to face. And that was like, you had to learn to readapt now to face to face. So I think we grew stronger. And in our school, not only in our school, I'd say in other schools also, I think teachers became stronger. And you were talking also about it as a citizen of Mauritius. And as Brinda, the citizen. So for me, the pandemic was something beneficial for me, because as I say, I am someone, I love my company. I'm not selfish, it's just my personality. Sometimes I need to be alone, to reflect and to think, and this helped me to know what I want from life, what kind of teacher. So it helped me. The pandemic helped me to be like that, to become better. And also, after that was in 2020. Now, we also had this year, we had another pandemic. It was in after February, in March again, sorry, beginning of March, on the 10th, like that. We had another lockdown, but this time, when I was doing Zoom, I was more confident. I knew how to work, so that was much better. And I really, but this time I was doing ESL with my students. It really worked. It was really something I was very happy. And but as usual, sometimes you have students, depending on the parents, sometimes there are students who are very like, they will cooperate with you, they will listen, but some others, they think because they are at home, they can do what they want. Because some students, sometimes they come without a shirt, even if they come in front of the camera, and they were, as a student, that for me, that's something you don't do. But how do you tell that to a parent? I think the parent, they should know. So, and sometimes some students, they were making noise, they were just playing, they were not listening. So you had these kind of things. But as a teacher, you need to be patient and to try also some rules, but you can't. Sometimes it depends. So you have to go with the flow, and also to learn that sometimes you have. So you learn. But I think it was successful, I'll say. But I think it made me a better teacher. And now I can say this is how also I got to know this year, I will say, the global, the global, all those global teachers. Yeah. With our men. So this is how little by little I came to know the group, and this is, for me, this is a beautiful. The pandemic it's a blessing for me when I met that group, because I've learned so much. I've learned to be confident in me. I've learned to be, if you have got your skills, develop them. And you have those skills, you can't keep it for yourself. It's for your students. So this is, and this is how I've become affirmative, if you want. And when I have something to say, I will go to my leader respectfully, and I'll say, this thing is not working. I'm trying this one, and and I find that people are respecting me because they find I am very confident. I look them in the eyes, because before I was not. My feet are on the ground, and I know what I'm doing, and I always ask permission to my leaders, because that's very, very important, to be respectful of leadership. And we always have to do that, and also to respect yourself, to respect the students. So I think this is, I've grown very confident because of this group, online group now, IELTA. For me, this is such a blessing. Yeah, I think that's...
that was, you might ask me, Teacher Brian just said only wow. Why? Because the learnings that you have shared, even if there is a pandemic, that is something that other teachers should be looking upon. Because remember, teacher, when the pandemic hit us, as if everything has ended, right? You cannot go out, you cannot do the usual things. But then us, educators, we didn't stop. Instead, we look for another way. Like you've shared, Teacher Brinda, you mentioned that you're not that good in computers during that time. You said you're not even familiar with Zoom. But then, why should we just stick with that? Oh, I don't know, this is difficult. Why should we stop? We are in this 21st century, 21st century life. The technology keeps on improving. And as a teacher, I can assure that you will be agreeing with this, right? Teachers are lifelong learners. We won't stop with what we've learned. We will adapt and adapt. And I saw, okay, dear listeners, because we're doing the interview via Zoom, I can see how sincere Teacher Brinda. I saw in her personality that everything that she's trying to cope up now, she's using it in a good way. And when she said that COVID-19 brought positivity to her, and she mentioned that it's in a good way, of course, no one wanted to have this pandemic, right? I just love when Teacher Brinda, dear listeners, said that COVID-19 brought her good things. And I can see it, okay? And in fact, she mentioned that, teacher, you mentioned that IELTA brought you a bigger picture, brought you into a bigger group wherein you're giving Mauritius a name when it comes to English language learning, right? Plus, okay, dear listeners, I'm trying to put everything in the most positive way because Teacher Brinda's ability in creating poetry. You know what, teacher, just to tell you, I'm a big fan of poet. Okay? I love to create simple poems. And in this time, we really need to do that. Together with the skills that we've learned, with the groups that you are part of, I can say that you have a positive experience. You coped up moving up rather than, moving down, just saying, oh, nothing will happen. Dear listeners, Teacher Brinda is, she's a good example, an inspiring teacher, okay? And going to our final question, Teacher Brinda, okay, this is the highlight of this podcast. Me and my listeners are interested to know, how do you inspire your learners? What's the secret? Do you have any tips, any techniques that you can share to us? Most especially, teacher, you mentioned you're teaching young learners, right? So we wanted to know, teacher, how does Teacher Brinda inspire her students?
Thank you, Teacher Brian, for that opportunity. So for me, it's just that each student, each human being that's born, for me, I know that they are unique, they have their own skills. So as a teacher, you have that student with you at that time, at that moment, maybe 40 minutes, 50 minutes. So this is precious. So the first thing, you just tell them, you are brilliant, you are unique, you have your own skill. So if you can do that that's okay, just do it. So it's very important that we listen to our students. For me, this is, and to be very attentive listeners. I remember like maybe a month ago, there was one student who was telling me, I just asked him, he said, I don't want to come to school. I prefer to stay during the pandemic. I stayed at home. I want to go home. And I told him, why you don't want to come to school? He said, because I miss my mom. So that was it. I want to see my mom. Then I said, okay. I said, that's okay, but at 2:30 you will see your mom. But now you have to stay in class because your mom can't, because she has to work. And I said, if your mom, how will she be able to pay your school if she doesn't work? So she has to work, so she pays your school. So I said, but now when you are learning, you also one day, you'll be able, that's why you're here. When you learn, you will be able, with that knowledge, you will be able to have a work and then you can obtain money. This will help you. And I said, if you love to do, suppose this is your your skill that he wants to be a pilot. I said, you can't be a pilot like that. You have to learn this English. You need to learn it so that you can become, your dream become true. So this is how I inspire them. But I need to really listen to them. Sometimes they are not feeling well. And sometimes instead of doing 50 minutes of lesson, you just need to do 15 minutes or 20 minutes because you need to, for your one, maybe it can be 1 or 2 students, they are not feeling well. They have to be here, they are feeling comfortable, then you can continue with the lesson. And I learned from mistakes. Because before I used to say, why are you not doing your work? You have to do it, you have this. But then I learned that you don't know how they are feeling because they are not adult, they can't express themselves. And this is how I learned. And then I'll stop and I'll say, okay, now let's see, we are the other students who are feeling good. I said, let's help this student. Let's him or her feeling good. Then afterwards we can continue. We are all going to help him or her. And then, this is the best thing for you. It's more than getting your salary at the end of the month. Is that when the student says, okay, now, they start telling you what is their problem. And then you say, okay, that's good, it's going to be better. And then afterwards, they say, now they are working. You see, they want to work. And then after the class, they are feeling okay. They enjoy the class. So this is something, it makes me so happy. That's why I love working with students. This is the success. It's not like you are a business person. I'm not saying anything like if you have a big business, you are a successful business person, it's not good. But what I'm saying is that as a teacher, you are not in the big light. You are like you are not on the show. You are quietly doing your work. But this is your satisfaction, the happiness you have. And for me, this is important. And I try. It's not always easy. When I'm doing my planner, I will do my planner starting from the student. I'll build my lesson starting from the student. So that's why my lesson varies. So today I've done this, and tomorrow I can be changing it because I will adapt. But I'm very happy that I can adapt. I can maybe as you write, you can adapt. So because you write, so okay, my hand, okay, I can adapt. I can change it. So that's I change it. Depending, for me, it's important that a child either he is the most important person in a class is the student. It's not the teacher. So my lesson should be around the student. I think that I don't have tips, but this is how I do the lesson. I try now.
That's inspirational. When you started, when you mentioned that you are looking into the students as an authentic individual, they have their own skills, they have their own personality, and then during this last few words you gave, adapting, I can really see myself, because before we start teaching, there is, the pre-service here in the Philippines. Just to share with you and with the dear listeners, before we become a real teacher in the university, we need to do pre-service work. So I had experience to teach young kids, toddlers, junior, middle high, and then senior high school. That's the time that you must start to learn how to adapt to each student. It's not the student that will adapt to us, right? Because we already know what we're doing. It should be the other way around, just like what you mentioned. And it's not always the authoritative type of teacher that, okay, do this, do that. I want you to finish this. Yeah, the students will finish it. But is there a learning that will happen? Is there the passion? Because, dear listeners, I can see that Teacher Brinda has developed that passion in teaching. Trust me, dear listeners. And she is using her social and emotional skills to these young learners by, telling them the reality. Just like what you've example, Teacher Brinda, right? You told the young kid that, how can you become a pilot if you will not study? And that is not, it's not an awkward thing to do to young kids. you're just telling them that if you wish to reach your dream, you need to start doing this simple task. And I think that is the best way to inspire our students, whether they are toddlers, young learners, middle, junior, senior, even university, even adult learners, right? We need to touch base with them. And definitely, by Teacher Brinda's wonderful stories, dear listeners, we can definitely give her the title of an inspiring educator of Mauritius. And Teacher Brinda, before we end this podcast, I haven't told you, okay, this simple thing, okay? This is a surprise, okay? Don't you worry. You will not dance, you will not sing, okay? But what I want you to do, Teacher Brinda, is to give final words of encouragement to all the educators and to all the learners who would listen to your episode. Because trust me, Teacher Brinda, lots of educators around the globe will be checking you out. So I'm giving you my podcast for Teacher Brinda to give your final thoughts, your words of encouragement to them. Let the whole world know how wonderful educators from Mauritius are. So Teacher Brinda, I'm giving you the opportunity to inspire them with your final thoughts. You may start, teacher.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and this honor to be interviewed by you. It's such an honor, Teacher Brian. You're such an inspiring educator, and today I've known you better, and thank you for that. So I don't know what to say, but I just want to say that just learn to be yourself. Always be yourself. So whether you are a learner or a teacher, be yourself, and be assertive when you need to be, but be also humble. Be humble, assertive, and you need to. Each one of us, we are unique. We need to look for our identity, who we are. That's very important. To know who you are. And one thing also, whether it's someone who has lost in life, who has fallen down, but never say that it's finished. Always say, okay, let me try. Always try, because there is always an opportunity. Because look at nature. For me, I'll say nature is the best teacher. Every day, the sun will rise, and every evening it will set. Every day, it's like organized. You'll have day, at night you have night. And even if it's in a peaceful country, this is the same. Even if it's a country at war, it's devastated, there are people crying, killed, murdered, there is bloodshed. The sun rises in the morning, and sets at night, in the evening. So it's just to tell you that we have to look above what we see, the pain, the disaster. Just look at something that's beyond us, like nature, universe, God, a belief. Just like, and also whatever our parents have taught us, or a teacher, it could be parents, or someone who has inspired us. Just keep that. Always hold on to something that has always inspired you. I don't know, it could be anybody. It can be a learner, it can be anybody, a grandmother, a teacher, a politician. Just keep those, a simple word. Just hold on to it. Hold on to your vision in life. Whatever you want to be, you can be. That I can tell you. You can be successful. Maybe you won't have a lot of money, but if you want to be a pilot, you can be. If you want to be a teacher, you can be. If you want to be a craftsman, you can be. If you want to be a spaceman, you can be. Anything you can be. What you have to be inside you, you will be.
My goodness, that was really inspiring. And with that, Teacher Brinda, thank you very much, okay? From the bottom of my heart, because I'm just a one-man team here, okay? I interview, I edit everything. I'm just a one-man team here. So from the bottom of my heart, from all the educators around the globe, we would like to say thank you to your very wonderful story, a very inspiring episode, another inspiring educator that all the listeners should be checking out. Thank you, Teacher Brinda. I'm really happy. I'm really honored to have you here in my podcast.
Thank you so much, Teacher Brian. For me, it is an honor to be on your podcast. And thank you so much. Thank you very much. And I'm so proud to be a Mauritian. I'm so proud as a Mauritian. And I hope, I know I won't be the first. There will be others after me that you will be interviewing. And as we say in French, I'll say bon courage, which means good strength. Bon courage in your job, in what you are doing, as you're blessing others. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, teacher. And that's it, dear listeners. You've heard another fantastic story from another educator from another part of the globe, wherein her journey was not that easy, but then her passion made her into this position now. And before we end up, let me just invite you to another episode of Inspiring Educators. Again, this is Teacher Brian saying that keep on inspiring. Till next episode. Bye, Teacher Brinda.
Bye, Teacher Brian.